and thank you for contacting Wave Support. I see you're struggling with the fit on this post-LASIK patient. And just a couple thoughts. We look at the topography here. You've got a nicely centered treatment zone. And you basically have two ways to fit this lens. Either you want to stay within that LASIK flap, which is probably why the patient previously wore the 9.0 diameter lens, or you got to get a little bit further out, which you're, I think, attempting to do with this Wave lens. And if you get out here, you really need to capitalize on this aligning the lens with this peripheral cornea. So if we look at your design for a moment, overall your design looks good, but if you notice you're in RSIM, which is basically a nice choice for the central cornea. However, you really need to get better alignment in this area between the blue and the pink dot, that landing zone, traditional landing zone. And of course that landing zone is outside the flap area. So if we look at your design, go to the 3 o'clock, you'll see we have a little bit of a standoff there. We come down, we still quite a bit of a standoff there. Maybe we're down a little bit more aligned in the vertical meridian. But again, if we get into that 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock here, we got quite a bit of standoff. So we really want to somehow get this blue and pink dot down lined up more. So quite often in this situation, I'll just switch over to freeform, and I'm going to hope that that wave can pick up a little more detail in each meridian of that lens. So if once we let that lens design, I'm just going to pull up this fresh design. This is your same design in freeform. You'll notice now that when I click around, it's brought that blue to pink landing zone down much more closely aligned with the cornea. So I think that will be helpful in general. If you feel that you need to get a little steeper than that, if you switch over to axial mode, axial tends to fit, lenses tend to be just a fraction more steep. However, tangential does seem to do a little bit better job of aligning this peripheral landing area more appropriately with the cornea. So quite often in these situations, I'll want as much good corneal interaction in this landing zone, so I lean a little bit more towards tangential. And sometimes I've had to go even as large as the entire corneal diameter, almost to the point where there's no lens movement, because it's basically covering limbal to limbal area. So you're at about 10.7. I went up to 11.0. Sometimes you might find yourself even a little bit larger than that if need be. Some docs like to put a little aspheric back surface in there, and you'll notice that when I do that, if you look at this back surface, lower left of the quad view, that's the back surface of the lens compared to the front surface of the cornea, and the topography in the lower right, they look very similar. If we click a little bit of aspheric component there, let that redesign. Using current settings, we'll give Wave a moment just to recalculate those curves. And there we go. Now we have a back surface of the lens that looks almost identical to some of the alignment of this front cornea. You've actually smoothed out some of those zones. You've got a very closely fit lens in all those meridians. So either way, I think with the asphericity or just the freeform in general, both of those design tips I think will help get that lens lined up better in that peripheral area. Now, granted, a lot of that peripheral data from the cornea is extrapolated, so you still might need to make some manual adjustments. In that case, you can always bring the blue dot down or the pink dot down on the lens just to kind of snug up that peripheral part of the lens a little bit more. Well, I hope you find those tips helpful. I wish you well, and thank you for contacting Wave Support.